not too much of a concern straight away because we let a couple people join the stream. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. How are you doing? You okay?
Wa alaikum salam. Alhamdulillah, doing well. How about you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm doing good. Sheikh, to be honest with you, this is your first stream with us on the Iftar Reminders so far, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So amazing. So as far as like the format goes, it's nothing too formal. It's nothing too structured. Really, it's just an opportunity to have conversations with people who are, quite frankly, much more studied than myself, and to just get a little bit of an insight into what things kind of do they want to remind themselves during Ramadan, what things do maybe you guys find valuable to hold on to, and maybe a little bit of insight into, some things that might kind of strike a bit of inspiration in our hearts, right? We understand, obviously, when it comes to Ramadan, and I don't know how you feel about this, sometimes I get a little bit too locked into the fact that I'm eating and then I'm not eating and then I'm eating and I'm not eating. And you forget the whole side of Ramadan, which is not just an intensely spiritual experience, but something that's going to benefit you, even the days after it, right? So I think really, as far as topics wise, I'm open to discussing anything. But with that in mind, take the floor.
Okay, Bismillah, let's start. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I mean, to begin, the abstaining from eating and drinking is ibadah, right? So this idea to have to feel something, we need to not focus on that so much, actually, because when the feelings come, when you're doing the right thing, that's good when it comes, but we don't worship for feelings, nor do we worship our feelings, of course. So doing taqwa is imtithalul amr wa ijtinabul nawahi. So it's doing what you're commanded to do and staying away from what you're not supposed to do. So that actually is enough, and that is a spiritual side of Ramadan. Now, of course, you can always do more and more, but it's really important to understand that what's really obligatory in Ramadan that's special is, first of all, siyam, fasting. And it's the month of Quran, so spend extra time reading Quran. And the third extra act of worship is, the second extra act of worship would be Taraweeh, So that's what's special to this month, and a person should try to exhaust himself in doing these things, actually. And we should not see Ramadan as a success or failure based on what we do after. That's the wrong way to see it. It's actually in the month itself. So really don't pay attention to these messages of, self-care, take it one step at a time, take it easy, don't burn yourself out. No, burn yourself out. This is actually a sprint. It's not a marathon. So Ramadan is the time where we're supposed to exhaust ourselves, knowing we're not going to be able to maintain the Ramadan activities after Ramadan. And you're not supposed to. Why is there extra reward in this month? Because you're supposed to do more. There's extra, you could call it madad, to allow you to do these sort of things. You eat less, you're more tired, yet you do more ibadah, right? Otherwise, normally we would say it's hard to get up and do these things, but we find ease to see it during the month of Ramadan. So don't look at Ramadan as I'm only going to do what I can keep up after. No, treat it like it's your last Ramadan, like it's your last month.
This is interesting. It's interesting that you say this, because I think oftentimes, like everyone falls, you fall kind of accustomed to social media Islam, which is like, the inspiring post, and like you said, these self-help kind of mentalities. Oftentimes a big focus everyone talks about is how to know if your Ramadan was accepted, how to, pace yourself correctly, how to these signs and this and this. You've actually come with something a little bit in opposition to this. It's a sprint. It's not a marathon. It's intentionally.
Like, how do they know if their Ramadan's accepted? So caught up in signs which may or may not indicate something, And this is part of the whole New Age influence on Islam. Like, it's all about me. How do I know my Ramadan's affected? Which Sahaba am I like? Which ayah of the Quran resonates with me? Find myself in the Quran. Find myself in the Seerah. How about you learn the Seerah to learn about your Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? How about you read the Quran to know what Allah's final message to humanity is? This is how we should see. This is how we interact with our scriptures, and this is how ibadah is ubudiyat, slavehood to Allah. So even trying to find out, will Allah accept, will they not? I mean, here's the answer. Nobody knows if they have husnul khatimah or not. So that's what we should be worried about. And they say this is what breaks the back of the awliya, that you could attain the highest maqam, you can do everything, but you're not guaranteed husnul khatimah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is what we should always ask for. So this focus on, okay, is my Ramadan accepted or not? It's like, you're never going to know. You're never going to know.
So is your advice on this?
Sorry, but you should have husn dhan of Allah, you know, and you should, and our working assumption should be that Allah will forgive us, that Allah accepts our Ramadan,
but not acting as if it's guaranteed in the sense of, no, of we've achieved it.
Right, it's a one, husnul one. It's not
it's a good opinion. It's like zan is like speculation, is it almost?
It won't translate in this context too well, but just have just think positively of Allah, you know.
No. So this is so interesting, you know, Sheikh, because I think you've taken not a I wouldn't say it's like a contradictory opinion, or I wouldn't say it's an inflammatory opinion, but like we just discussed a second ago, there's a lot of social media Islam. What about me, this self-help mentality? Okay, so it takes me to a question, and I suppose you'll probably it's probably a good position to ask this question is, what's the remedy towards this liberalization or this softening of the deen when it comes to making it attractive to people? Well, No, go ahead.
Social media is spiritual junk food. So it's like if you stop at a gas station and want to buy like these candy bars and chocolate, and you say, what's the remedy? Well, I mean, you have gourmet restaurants available. Go learn something, spend time with righteous people, learn the deen, and work your heart just to practice it. And don't ascribe like a power to social media that it shouldn't have over your life, you know?
No.
So yes, all this nonsense will go on. You're not going to change it. Algorithms favor nonsense. Algorithms favor liberal Islam. So that's what the internet is. You just have to know what the medium is. You know, that's what social media channels are supposed to do. They bump these things, you know. So you're not going to change that, but that's not where you should get your Islam, and you shouldn't pay too much attention to it either.
So you don't actually see it as we need to find a remedy for this and stop it in its tracks. It's almost acceptance. Let it be. It is designed to be like this. Social media, this is what it does. We focus on the real things. You study with the real scholars. You study in real, institutes, and you focus on the important stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
What's the approach when it comes to these online academies? Because, you know, a lot of people offer different types of learning and stuff through their online academies. Generally, do you have a preference for in-person learning or online learning?
You know, I think somebody should spend some time in person learning. It depends what their career goals are, what their study goals are, how much they want to devote, what they can or cannot do. But, you know, even for people who've studied in seminaries and have studied many years, I'm talking over 10 years, the benefit of online classes is you get to benefit from people who are specialized in a field that may not have been available in the area you studied. So, for example, people who studied in Pakistan, they won't have the ability to learn, for example, speaking Arabic as well, you know, or studying maybe like balagha to as high of a level as someone who studied in Egypt. Well, when you study online, you can find a scholar of balagha or someone, you know, very well learned in the field that wasn't available in the area you studied. So there's a benefit, and everyone should figure out what's best for their situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like these times of they don't exist anymore, but you know, in the past, people used to plan their whole lives around traveling in certain locations to have access to certain types of teachers, right? And that's been leveled a little bit. I still think, and you know, maybe I'd like your opinion on this. I still think there's one thing that is important about studying with a teacher versus online, is that when it comes to the adab of lessons, the dealings with a Muslim and going through these texts, I find there's a distinct difference versus in person and online. Because in person, you have that direct face-to-face understanding.
Again, if somebody's not going for the fard kifaya level, they just want to learn a little, or they're learning out of hobby, you know, I mean, they should benefit any way they can. But no, do we want our imams being just online trained? Absolutely. So that's what I mean. Like, that's what I meant by it depends what a person's goals are. And I think we do need to normalize that people who are just in college or just working to also learn Arabic and develop a relationship with the Quran. You know, my teacher in Mauritania, Sheikh Abdullah Ahmed, he mentioned something when visitors came. they asked, I was the translator, so they asked, "What's your advice for us?" And he said, "Look, the fish in the sea, and and the angels, they make dua for the student of knowledge, and this is an opportunity you can have just by going on your computer and taking an online class." Now, this is someone, he lives where there's no internet. He doesn't do online classes, never studied online, but the idea is still there. Like, benefit where you can, how you can, and not everybody is trying to be an imam or a scholar.
Yeah, this is very true. I think oftentimes when you look at these different academies, I mean, I've signed that. I've got subscriptions of 3-4 of them at this stage, and every one of them is talib al-ilm, or become this or become that. They're positioned in a way that I think sometimes they're far too, and it's not that ambition shouldn't be had, but they're far too ambitious for what a lot of the students are coming there to, which is just
marketing.
To learn some basic books. Yeah,
it's marketing. It's always overpromised and underselling. But
you will become a mujtahid in 2 weeks.
But what we do need to normalize is learning Arabic and developing a relationship with the Quran, because what happens a lot of times in the traditional circles, the more Ilmi circles, is there's actually warning against Quran. Like, don't study Quran unless you know Arabic, unless you're studying it with scholars, which is true in its place, right? It's warning people to not become their own mujtahids and take rulings. I think it's far more beneficial to tell people, just don't make your own rulings, which I think that message has been received, and then build a relationship with the Quran, because a lot of the Quran is about reflecting on the signs of Allah, and just tell them, don't make your own rulings, which people know not to do, and then still have a connection with the Quran. This is really what's needed. And just studying Arabic and having your own moral breaks to just not give fatwa will do wonders for a person's relationship with Allah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Was good advice, actually, what you're saying with building a relationship with the Quran. I think the warning, like you mentioned, is to not derive your own rulings, to not do your own tafsir just of what your opinion is or what a potential meaning of a certain ayah is, but there still needs to be a fixation or maybe a focus on Quran first, right? Because the thing is, at the end of the day, people are going out there, they're going, okay, can I memorize these hadith? I'm going to memorize the 40 hadith, these different books, right? At the end of the day, if we haven't memorized the Quran first, we shouldn't really, it's not that we shouldn't be going on, but it's advisable to focus on the main source and then go on to, memorizing your other books after that.
Right. I mean, how many people, sorry, go ahead.
No, continue. Sorry.
Go ahead. It's fine. Go ahead.
What I was going to say is because we're nearing the one of the questions that I like to ask all of our guests, and to be honest with you, it's a tricky way to frame this question. The question generally would be, what do you think would your recommendation be of a sunnah that you think is popularly forgotten in day-to-day actions that you could recommend, or that you think you'd recommend to anyone to try and take up in their life? How would you answer that?
Well, I think simple is a good way to go. So I would say siwak.
Okay, mashallah. Yeah, this is a good reminder. Especially whilst we're fasting. A lot of people forget this, right? Because the Prophet ﷺ did say in the hadith, and this is something to the effect of, about using the siwak every time you go to pray. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, and you'll have difference. Is it before every salat? Like, for example, I believe the Shafis will do it in 20 rakat of tarawih after every 2, right? But for the Hanafis, it would be for the Isha, for every prayer timing, meaning if you're going to Isha, do it before, and then everything you do after within a time period where your breath doesn't change, you get the reward for that. And the siwak is not just the wooden toothstick, which is ideal, but it's the action. So even if with a toothbrush, actually, you'll get the reward of siwak.
It's interesting because I didn't study, but I had it's kind of an introduction with a sheikh who studied in Mauritania. And he used to say before we prayed, every time he said, use a siwak, even if you don't have a siwak, use the edge of your thobe or the edge of your sleeve, anything, just scrub the teeth. So actually, the action is what is prescribed. It's not particularly the toothstick itself. Well,
it would be a brush or the toothstick, and then the cloth is actually lower. It's if you don't have either one.
I see. Yeah. Okay, this is super interesting. Sheikh, barakallahu feek. I appreciate your time, and I know we kind of covered a few different things there, and it was a bit more conversational, but I appreciate your time. I'll
you.
leave it up to you. If anybody wanted to find you, or maybe study a little bit under you, understand a bit more about kind of the work that you do, where would we find you?
You can look at my website, www.insheikhsclothing.com.
insheikhsclothing.com. I'm just going to put this up for everybody who is watching.
And they can just follow the links from there.
Okay, inshallah. Sheikh, barakallahu feek. I appreciate it a lot. And hopefully, inshallah, we'll speak to each other one more time before the end of Ramadan. I'm not sure if you've got any other spots, but let me know if you do.
Sounds good. I enjoyed this. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.